in time, David became king of Israel. His great deeds were sung by poets. His words were teachings to scholars. But still, there was pain and uncertainty even in his life. In fact, David once got almost murdered by Ishbi Benob, the older and uglier brother of Goliath. One morning, David, the king of Israel, woke up, jumped out of bed, threw open the window and yelled, "Hey, I feel great today! Do you hear me? Well, great today! I won't sit in a throne room. I won't commit with important dignitaries. No. Today, I'm going hunting, and I want to go by myself." A bag of food was packed. David's royal bow and arrows were handed to him. And like a boy skipping school, the joyful king ran alone into the wilderness. After some time, he took off his shoes and stepped into the cool mud. Then he laid on the fragrant grass. Then he climbed a large oak tree and had lunch on a massive branch. In the midst of his eating, there appeared just below him an amazing creature. It was a deer with giant antlers. It was shimmering blue with golden spots. The mighty deer stared defiantly at the king of the tree and seemed to laugh at him. Then it actually spoke. "You like me, don't you, king? You like me. For I'm slick, and I'm fast, and I'm free, and no one is my master. But you want to master me, don't you, little king?" sneered the stag. But how could David know this deer was actually Satan in disguise, waiting to bring David to his death? Before David had time to move, the deer bolted into the forest. For hours he tracked it, periodically catching sight of its little black tail. Other times he saw its pointed antlers sticking above the bushes. He followed the deer out of the land of Israel, right through the land of his enemies, the Philistines, and right into the cave of Ishbi Benob, the older and uglier brother of Goliath. When Ishbi Benob saw David, the murderer of his brother, his nostrils flared, his hair stuck straight up. Hate pushed through his veins instead of blood, and with one swift lunge, he grabbed David by the neck and screeched, "Now I shall have my revenge!" That same moment, back at the palace, all life was safe and beautiful. King David's very best friend, Abishai ben Zachariah, was walking through the royal rose garden when a white dove struck him in the head. It fluttered there in midair, screeching and pecking itself until it bled. Then, as quick as it came, it fled. Abishai was bewildered and confused. Then he noticed this was a sign, a symbol, an omen. The white dove was a symbol of David, and this bleeding dove meant that David's life was threatened. But what could Abishai do to find the king? What would you do? A few precious moments passed. Then he remembered in King David's treasure there was a magic mirror in which the king would always be seen. Abishai rushed to the treasury, pushed aside the guard, and rummaged through the thousands of precious objects until he finally came upon the magic mirror. He held it up into the light, and the sight he saw in the mirror made his sweat turn sour. There was the helpless King David, trapped in a huge olive press. And there was Ishbi Benob, laughing insanely and squeezing the press tighter and tighter. As Ishbi Benob watched, the king fainted from pain. The monster's muscles pressed harder and harder until the press began to crack the king's bones. But then, miraculously, the press snapped and broke. The king was not dead yet. Abishai had to get there immediately. But what could Abishai do? What would you do? Then Abishai remembered. Another one of King David's amazing possessions was a horse of astounding speed. They say it was faster than the speed of thought. It was kept in a secret stable underneath the palace. Abishai ran down 500 steep steps to the secret stable. He mounted the horse without saddle or bridle, and before he could think, hope, or fear, he had already arrived outside the cave of Ishbi Benob, the older and uglier brother of Goliath. And outside the cave in the afternoon sun was the monster's mother, knitting her son a sweater made out of human hair. When she saw Abishai, she sneered, stood up, took one of her knitting needles, and threw it at him. As it flew through the air, it grew larger and larger until it was the size of a razor-sharp spear, and right for the heart of Abishai ben Zechariah. But Abishai was quick. He quickly redirected it right back to its source. The amazed woman's eyes grew as large as saucers. She tried to run, but the spear went right through her hair, pinning that squirming mother of a giant to the wall of the cave. Abishai rushed into the cave, and the sight he saw made his heart jump into his throat. Ishbi Benob, the elder and uglier brother of Goliath, had planted in the dirt floor of his cave thousands of knives, daggers, swords, and spears with the blades pointed upward. He had thrown King David up into the air, and the king was now falling onto the floor of death. What could Abishai do? What would you do? Fear and helplessness mixed in with courage and will. He felt as if he was splitting apart. Then something shot out of him. A voice, a sound, a song, a word, a mystery. Whatever that thing was, it shot out of him, grabbed David in midair, and floated him gently in between the metal blades. The amazed King David rushed toward Abishai, and together they sped toward the magic horse. Ishbi Benob, furious at this interruption, ran after them, but tripped over his huge olive press, which flew up in the air and fell on Ishbi Benob with such a force that it knocked his head into his shoulders into his hips into his feet. As the two Israelites mounted the horse and saw the ugly head of Ishbi Benob running on 10 hairy toes, screeching, "I'll get you! One day! I will! I'll get you one day!" Faster than the speed of thought flew the two, until finally they made it to the royal rose garden of the king. They hugged each other, and watered the flat roses with their tears of relief. Well, for years after that, King David never mentioned the strange story to anyone, until one night, when he was very old, he gathered all the scribes and storytellers together. Listen to this story. Write it. Cherish it with all your heart. Tell how I, King David, was saved by Abishai ben Zechariah. Say it from the murderous grip of Ishbi Benob, the older and uglier brother of Goliath.